what it say? And it says, and certain of the elders and the scribes from the temple came unto him, saying, why do the disciples teach men that it's unlawful to eat flesh? Wow. Why do disciples teach that? Do we got records of that in the scriptures? We do not. You're going to see what I mean. The more you study this, you're going to see like, okay, there was an intent to hide this understanding. I'm going to read verse 12 again. And certain of the elders and the scribes from the temple came unto him, saying, why do the disciples teach men that it is unlawful to eat flesh of beasts, though it be offered in sacrifice as Moses ordained? This is called True Diet Part 1. Because the lesson is pretty long, but like I was saying, if you were privy to the classes before, a lot of this stuff would make sense. The aim is to put us on the right direction. Again, if you saw the introduction videos, you'll see we will be going into information and studies and resources that's been studied for years. So that holds a level of validity. It's been heavily scrutinized and dictated and went into to find out the right information. And that's what we wanted to do. So once all the stuff has come together, we decided to put a study together and teach this information. So this study is True Diet, Part 1. And this Part 1 will be going into, it's going to be broken down in these 5 categories, but Part 1 is first, dietary law. We're going to go into Noah in the fall. We're going to go into Moses in the Exodus. And then Part 2 is going to go into Christ-like family and Christ and the disciples. And all that is tying it into what is it talking about when it comes to a true diet. Rest assured and believe there is some type of funniness that has happened to hide this understanding. And there has been some things implemented to create another understanding that was never privy to what we know. So because of they hidden certain information from us, Mick, and that is not available for us to understand, you know what I mean? Things were able to be implemented to create an understanding and be directed to what they want, the motive of the ideology they want to have. Understand? So they created that understanding because there's a lack of understanding of what needs to be known. But we're going to expose a lot of the things, right? A lot of the things that's been hidden. We're going to expose a lot of things that we needed to know as a nation, as a people, as children of the Most High, right? We're going to expose a lot of things. We're going to get an understanding of a lot of things. And I truly believe when we get this understanding, it's going to play a part in our development, in our spirituality, righteousness, getting closer to the Father, you know what I mean, being set apart. I think it gets closer to understanding our salvation and what the things that need to be done and understood, and how things was set for the order that was created from the beginning. And we're going to go into that with a lot of these topics right here, starting with part 1, which is the first dietary law, Noah in the fall, Moses in the Exodus. Any questions before I start that? We're going to start with the first dietary law. All right. Let's go into that. We're going to go into Genesis 1:29. Genesis 1:29 to verse 31. All right. Let's read that. And the Most High said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Now we can stop right there because there's something I want to put emphasis on. The word meat. You see how the word meat was used referring to fruit. And a lot of us do not understand it. We think meat is just the chicken, the fish, the beef and things like that. But meat literally is victuals that you can just eat. Things that you put in your mouth for nourishment was considered meat. As we see here in this scripture, he said, I've given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree which the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Now check it, verse 30, and it says, and to every beast, okay? Not some, but every. So let's pay attention to how it's using direct sayings here. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. So everything else he said it was so. We see the heavens, right? We see the moon, we see the sun, we see the stars, we see man, we see animals, we see land, we see air, we feel air. Everything that he said it was so in creation exists. This is one of the things he said was good for creation that existed. And he created this for man and beast. This was his divine creation. This was the first dietary law. This was the first understanding that he made for every beast and every man. Verse 31, and it says, and the Most High saw everything that he had made. Let me read it again. And the Most High saw everything that he has made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So based off this, the first dietary law the Most High made for us, he said it was good for us. Okay? Let's go into a documented Gospel Holy 12, Lection 33. Do we have anybody alluding to this first diet? We don't really see it in the canonical writings too much, but there is something Christ said. Let's go into that. Lection 33, verse 5 and 6. It says, obey my voice, walk in the ways that I have commanded you, and ye shall be my people, and it shall be well with you. But they hearken not, nor incline their ear. And what doeth the Eternal command you? But to do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Is it not written that in the beginning, the Most High ordained the fruits of the trees and the seeds and the herbs to be food for all flesh? Not just man, but in beasts, because we got in verse 30, every beast, every fowl, everything that creepeth where there is life. And he said, behold, he has given every bearing herb and seed and fruit yielding seed to man. So when we read back in Lection 33, verse 6, it tells us, is it not written? Absolutely it is. We heard Christ speak like that when he spoke to the devil, when he was fasting. Is it not written? Is it not written? Is it not written? He's saying it here. Is it not written that in the beginning the Most High ordained the fruits of the trees and the seeds and the herbs to be food for all flesh? Now think about every time Christ had to say, is it not written? It was going towards opposition. And sometimes we may have an eternal opposition, and sometimes we got to cut it by saying, well, is it not written? But here's the dilemma. We have things that's written that goes against it. So what do we choose? What do we do? Well, we have to seek understanding and ask the spirit of discernment to allow us to get understanding. Because we owe that to seek out our own salvation. We owe that to ourselves to seek out what is the truth. Don't trust what I'm teaching. Take the information and see if is it truth, right? Let's continue. Lection 72, verse 10. And it says, again, in the beginning, the Most High gave to all. Just some? Just to man or just to beast? No, to all. The fruits of the trees and the seeds of the herbs for food. But watch what he say right here. But those who love themselves more than God or their fellows corrupted their ways. So what is the Messiah saying here? Do you not know what was established in the beginning? We have this dilemma where we read things that goes against that. But it's only existing because of what? He said, because we dealing with those who love themselves more than the Most High, and their fellows corrupted the ways. And what did it say after that? It says, and brought diseases into their bodies and filled the earth with lust and violence. And it's no one on earth who can have observation, can't see that is true. So our great Messiah spoke that. He know that. He ain't lying. Let's go to Lection 28 of the Gospel of Holy 12, verse 2. What it say? And Christ looked on the young man with love and said unto him, thou hast a good heart, and the Most High shall give thee light. But knowest thou not that the Most High in the beginning gave the man fruits of the earth for food, and did not make him lower than the ox, or the horse, or the sheep, that he should kill, eat the flesh and blood of his fellow creatures? Now hold on. We don't get knowledge of the Messiah like this. We don't get teachings of the Messiah like this. So if the teachings of the Messiah like this is redacted, then now we can create the narrative whatever we want. Why is this information is not taught to us? Oh, we dealt with people that love themselves more than the Most High, and it corrupted the writings. Right? But let's check some more history. Let's go into the next one. Noah in the fall. Right? We're going to go into the book of Jubilees, chapter 5, verse 2. Let's see what it says. It says, and lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh. We see all flesh a lot, right? He said all flesh corrupted its ways, alike men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walks on the earth. Where did we see that example at? We seen that example in Genesis, where he said for the man, everything that walked, for the birds, for the fowls, that all. He said all that walks on the earth to have life. He made a diet for them. But now we reading everything that walks on life, something happened. What happened? Let's read verse 2 again. And lawlessness increased on earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, alike men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walks on the earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders. It was never meant for the beast to operate how they operate. It was never meant for man to operate how we operate. We all corrupted our order. What does it say after that? And it says, and they began to devour each other, and lawlessness increased on the earth, and every imagination of thought of all men was thus evil continually. Is this lying? Nah, we see it today. So that was written in Jubilees, and then we read the Messiah quoted the same thing. It's two different records saying the same thing, right? Two records that's saying the same thing. Go ahead, brother. Now you got your hand up.
Shalom. I was gonna say that verse right there speaks volumes, because I done read that many verse so many times. I mean, I done read that verse so many times. And it was like a few months ago we was going through it, and you know what I'm saying, I think it was you that pointed out, and I never realized what it say, but it flat out say that all creation begin to devour one another.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about that diet, to eating the meat and things like that, or to eating the flesh, that was part of the corruption of man also. Everything on earth began to eat things outside of its original diet, started becoming carnivores and things like that.
Yep. Thank you for your input. And anyone can comment off that if they need so. But absolutely, all men devoured themselves. All men devoured it. Beast devoured all creation. fell. That's why I use the word lawlessness. It broke the law that the Most High established in the beginning for man. Because everything he established in the beginning was good. So if you go against what's good, it's bad. Woe to man who call good evil and evil good. Boy, whoever got the hand raised can speak.
So you telling me the lion ate veggies?
I'm telling you what the word said. That all beasts had a diet.
I'm messing with you. I believe it.
Okay.
I know the animals are not supposed to eat each other. They was originally in the beginning. They definitely was not supposed to be eating each other.
Yeah, isn't there a script that say the lion will eat straw or something to that effect?
Oh yeah, I'm in agreement with you. That's facts.
Okay.
We have another hand up.
I was curious to know, was that the result of the Watchers, or was that just our sin as humans?
Ooh, I like that. To answer that, they played a major part. They introduced to that to man. That's a good question. It definitely plays up. The Watchers definitely played a part. Jubilees chapter 6, verse 38. And it say, for this reason I commanded and testified to thee, that thou mayest testify to them. For after thy death, thy children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. And for this reason they would go wrong as to new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals. We quote that and trust that what it say, because that's what happened. But check what it say after that. And it says, and we emphasize this many times when dealing with understanding the calendar and understanding the feast days. But what about the and after that? It says, and they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. So we know we disturb the ways, we know the seasons, and we know the disruption of the order. But what about that part? Of course it happened. Of course it happened. Let's go in Jubilees chapter 6, 38. Right? Again. What did it say again? That last part. They will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. Do we have an example of that? Of course. Let's go to St. Jerome. Watch what it say. It said the use of flesh animals was unknown up to the deluge. What is the deluge? That's the flood. The flood that we just read about happened after, when we was reading Jubilees. What would happen? That was told to Noah after the flood. But let me read this again. It says, the use of the flesh of animals was unknown up to the deluge. But after the deluge, men put between their teeth the sinews and stinking juices of flesh. But it says Jesus Christ today does not permit us to eat the flesh according to the apostle. What apostle is talking about? We know Peter taught this. In fact, all the apostles taught this. It says, permitted us. It says, Jesus Christ today does not permit us to eat flesh according to the apostle. Is it good never to drink wine and never to eat flesh? For the use of wine has commenced with that of flesh after the deluge. Now, if we have this record written in 340 AD, that statement is way after all the writings that was put out saying otherwise. But it links exactly to the history that we read that was before everything else that stated otherwise. So there's a part that's in between the early history records and the after records. Somewhere there is some type of shift of understanding. Somebody's cooking the writings because they want to implement a different understanding. Could it be what the Messiah said? Because of the evilness of their ways, corrupted the writings. You got a hand up? Go ahead, sis, you can speak.
Not the water. My question was in Genesis, where it says Noah was instructed to take 7 pairs of clean animals, and can't remember, maybe a pair of the animals that was unclean. How would you attribute that to what you're saying? Like, what would have been the purpose then to have 7 clean animals, 7 pairs of clean animals saved, and only 1 pair? Because the way that it was always taught was that it was for the purpose of sacrificing, or being that they would need to, like, eat or consume these animals, which is why they needed more of the clean animals than the unclean.
Who said that, though?
That was the explanation I was given, but in reading it, it only tells you that 7 pairs of clean animals were saved and only 2 pairs of unclean animals. So, I mean, if you think about it in like a practical way, and you're, unbeknownst to the whole meat issue, one would think that, okay, it was for the purpose of, the fact that they would have to eat these animals, or, maybe for sacrificial purposes.
Understood. I just want to say this. I see Brother Nine hand up. He may want to comment after that, but I want to say this. What does that do? All that does is for us to implement the idea of what we think, because it doesn't say. And because we have records that say about clean and unclean beasts, we have to associate that's what it was for. But we don't have nothing to say that was indicating for diet reasons. And because of that, I don't think it's safe to implement that understanding. Because the clean and unclean animals, that doesn't change the nature of the animals. It's unclean because of the nature of the animal. It's unclean because of the nature of the animal. And there's another record, if I'm not mistaken, what is it called? Can't remember, but it goes into why animals was labeled clean and unclean, and it talks about because of their nature. This animal does this and do this, this what makes it unclean. This animal does that and does this what makes it unclean. I will share that after the class once I find it. But that could be that as well. The meaning of clean and unclean. But what I can say, what it don't say is that is in relation to diet. Like how the records we're bringing in is specifically hitting, saying this is diet. This was of the diet. So now we can't really speculate because it's saying it. Now, can we compare to get understanding? Absolutely, like you just asked. We can compare to get understanding, you know what I mean? Because we have records that speak against this or maybe challenge it, right? But it doesn't mean that what you quoted means that it's pertaining to diet. But we have no choice but to associate that because we have records that talks about clean and unclean beasts pertaining to diet. So we must assume that's what it meant when it Noah in the flood. Go ahead, Brother Nine.
So, yeah, I was just gonna say that I know, if I'm not mistaken, it's different between what you read in Jubilees versus what you read in the book of Genesis, and pertaining to how many clean and unclean animals, clean versus unclean animals that Noah was commanded to take on the actual ark. But another thing is too, according to Genesis chapter 9, the one that we have in the canonized Bible today, that's when the institution of sacrifices actually came about, right? And that's also where the Most High told Noah and his sons that they were allowed to eat flesh at that point. But even with that being the case, when you talk about them clean and unclean animals, it could have been for the purpose of quote unquote sacrifice, because it does look like in the time sacrifice was something that the Most High required. But originally, we know we didn't actually deal with sacrifice, and we didn't deal with the eating of flesh and things like that. So me personally, I'm of the same opinion that I am when it comes to the eating of meat altogether, which is that it was something in the beginning, it wasn't lawful. But because our people couldn't stop doing it, the Most High gave us his permissible will, which was, okay, y'all can do it, but yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna give y'all rules and regulations on how to do it. Same thing with sacrifice. Okay, I didn't require this in the beginning, but Moses, my servant, is asking me to allow y'all to do it, but to make it a lawful way to where y'all can do it unto me, versus, you know, y'all being amongst the Egyptians for so long that y'all gonna do it to the Egyptian gods. So I think it could have been, you know, something along those lines pretty much.
We're gonna go in that a little bit.
My question is towards Shalom, everybody, by the way.
Shalom. Peace and love.
Peace and love, blessings. Cain and Abel. I gotta ask about Cain and Abel because, you know, according to how it's written, Cain gave an unworthy sacrifice, and, you know, he was the one who dealt with vegetation, and Abel gave a worthy sacrifice, and he was a sheep herder. So my question is, was that sacrifice, you know, in regards to eating or not eating? And then my other question is, what made that clean and made that unclean? Was it his intent behind it, or was it, you know what I'm saying? Because we're on one hand, we're looking at sheep, and on one hand, we're looking at vegetation.
Good question. If I'm not mistaken, in Jasher, it speaks on the fact that it was all based off he had an unclean heart. It wasn't even about the food. It was about his heart was unclean. His heart was unclean, what made any sacrifice, no matter what it was, wouldn't be acceptable. But here we have the intention of creating some type of campaign against the Most High original diet, because then when you see that, you'll be like, well, Cain and Abel, you know, Cain, you know, he you know, one was sacrificing the fruits and vegetables, and the other one was sacrificing the flesh. And the one that sacrificed fruits and vegetables wasn't received by the Most High because it was fruits and vegetables. But then again, have not their parents came from the garden with fruits and vegetables and got the first commandment to only eat fruit and vegetables? So how does they go together? Something ain't right.
Right. So in that, because I agree with you, I always believe that it had more to do with the intention of his heart than what the actual sacrifice was. I always believe that. But regarding the sacrifice of animals, let's try to, like, you know, discuss that aspect of, because Abel did sacrifice an animal, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure. At least that's what the record tells us. I'm a firm believer some things was implemented to be a campaign against what the modern day understanding wants to have. And we'll go into more of that into the study, how it shows that. Just like we read with St. Jerome, it said the use of flesh animals was unknown up to the deluge. So is he lying? That makes us have to challenge this record. Like, okay, is this record lying? Or is it telling the truth? Well, then we read in other records, Christ saying from the beginning, that was never supposed to be. So that means this record is telling the truth, because Christ stated out his mouth from the beginning, that was never supposed to be. Ever. But what we read in Jubilees, what is stated, man has corrupted all their ways, and from the beginning, that was never meant to happen. So we can write it off as two things. Is that an interpolation of the scripture, or is it something that was just never supposed to happen? And I think when we put all the evidence together, as more I share this understanding, we would start to be able to identify certain parts like, yeah, I think that's interpolation because it goes against the original order. And that's how I came to the understanding of this, studying it for years. It's like, wait a minute. A lot of stuff go against the original order. And I believe if it goes against the original order, it was never supposed to be. Though it existed, absolutely. Though it was secessions for it, absolutely. But when you read one of the purpose of the Messiah, it says he came to restore things back to the original order. So whether it happened or didn't happen, we know it was never supposed to happen, and we're not supposed to do it. So yeah, there are scriptural, things that be like, hey, what does that mean? And I'm gonna be honest, I share the same feeling to a degree. Like, why is that in there? What does that mean? And the only thing I can just measure it to, for real, is the fact that what measure do I have? Well, I know who's the greatest. Everything is measured to the greatest measure, and that's the Messiah. So I'm gonna measure it to the Messiah. Well, with the Messiah, we line it up. See how this measure out? What the Messiah say? Nope, it doesn't measure to what the Messiah said. Or the Messiah says that measurement is unnecessary and obsolete. So I just don't even deal with it. I don't even worry about trying to figure it out. I already got the commandment not to worry about it and worry about what the Messiah said. So I ain't gonna fight too much trying to figure out. I would spend the rest of my life trying to figure out why they did this and why they did that, because it's so much. And because it's so much, that warrants the reason of coming of the Messiah to set it straight. Because the way it's going, it was going to have us all off the beaten path. And already do in a way. So I share the same feeling. I know a lot on here share the same. Everybody probably share the same feeling. But all I can say with my own, walk in the faith is that I just got to trust what the Messiah said. And I can't go wrong. Because some things just don't have an answer to. But what we do have an answer to is what to do now and what to focus on now. You know what I mean? But there are some things we're going to discover in this study that will help us come to a conclusion to some understandings as we go along.
I'll have to walk.
Go ahead, Naeem.
Yeah, my bad. What I'm about to speak about, I'm going into something that you got in the lesson. Just cut me off, all right? But
sure.
Pretty much, it is.
I'm not gonna cut you off. I'm just gonna emphasize that on it more. You good?
All right. It is certain texts contained within, like the Dead Sea Scroll records, like the Book of Jubilees, and other Dead Sea Scroll books, that pretty much let you know that Adam only dealt with holy and righteous sacrifices that dealt with vegetation and not with actual animal sacrifices. And we believe, you say you got that?
No, I'm saying, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I was just saying, I've read that too, but I don't have too much more like two witnesses on that, so I don't speak on that. It's a lot of stuff that I know of that's only one witness to, but yeah, I read it was the opposite. I read one story says because Cain offered the slaughter of an animal, that was wrong. The Most High didn't like that. And Abel gave the fruits of his first fruits. He gave his first fruits of a sacrifice, and Most High seen that was a worthy sacrifice. But I digress. Go ahead, brother.
Actually, the funny thing about that is that according to the Book of Jubilees, which is the oldest recording we have, even older than the Genesis that we have today, according to that, it was more so about the intentions of the heart, because first fruits deal with whatever it is that you produce in particular. You know what I'm saying? So when you deal with produce, you usually deal with fruits and vegetations. The way we come to the understanding that, which my understanding is different now, but the way we come to the understanding that it must have had something to do with the animals is simply because we believe that according to the text, that Adam and Eve sacrificed the animal for, you know what I'm saying, coats of skins or whatever like that, which that's a whole nother story in itself. But I'm done because I don't want to say too much, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Someone else had their hand up? I'm sorry, I can't see them when they pop up, so forgive me.
Sister Yaquars, Sister Gail, from what I read, Jubilees, it was the heart, but what he did was he did a process that made it faster than what it should have been. And from my reading, which I'm probably wrong, people were telling me, I started thinking about splicing. Like he spliced something to make it faster. But he did do something, from what Jubilee says, that whatever it was, he took a shortcut. He made it happen much faster. But like you said, it still was the heart.
Right. And we see the record saying how important the right heart it is you need to have for sacrifice. That's the true sacrifice. So absolutely. Thank you for that.
I guess that's like, when we cook with love. He didn't have that. He didn't have that.
We got another hand up, Sister Nawar. I'm sorry, was you finished, Sister Guy?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, but I like that analogy. He didn't have that love, and that's a big part because we see records of that. Not having the right heart. Doesn't matter if you got the right sacrifice or whatever it is. It's not going to be acceptable.
Right, because he rushed it. It's like me cooking chicken and I'm cooking it all fast, and it wound up burnt up and not tasty, and
Yeah.
I'm not cooking it with the love.
So, just to be clear on what you're saying, because I know Akhtar was saying Cain and Abel, but in the beginning, when Adam and Eve had to leave the Garden of Eden, the trees and the fruits that they produce was for meat, correct?
Correct.
All praise the water.
Yes. Okay, so let's go back into it. We touched on this scripture in last study, but I want to hit it again. Remember Romans chapter 8? We talked about that, right? Let's get it again. Romans chapter 8, verse 19. Starting at 19. And it says, for the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who have subjected the same in hope. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from bondage of corruption unto the glorious liberty of the children of the Most High. You see how this links exactly what we read in Jubilees, how man and beast fell. We fell out of order with the Most High. And let's read 21 again, 8 and 21 of Romans. It says, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from bondage. What people fail to realize is that the Messiah didn't necessarily just come to save man, but he also was coming to save beasts. All creation. Because all creation that has life in it was given the breath of life. He said, so because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption, right? Into the glorious liberty of the children of the Most High. But we know that we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. which means the whole creation, right? Going through it until now. What is the now? That his now is because the Messiah has came. The Messiah came to show the way. That would start the process of us being in unity with the Most High. Original way. That's what the Messiah came and did. Let's show that. Because last class we showed that. How the Messiah holy laws fulfilled that. Let's go in a writing called the Essene Humane Gospel of Christ. And it says the birth of the Messiah in the cave. Let's read this account again now with this understanding even more. And it says, and Joseph and Mary went into Bethlehem, the city of David, and Mary, heavy with child, brought forth their first babe in a cave, wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger within the cave, for there was no room to be found for them in the town. And behold, the cave was filled with bright lights as the sun, and it reflected the glory of many holy angels. And there proved to be in the cave also an ox and a horse and an ass and a sheep. And beneath the manger was a cat with her little ones, and there were doves also overhead. And each had his mate after its kind, male with the female. Thus it came to pass. So hold on. We don't got that record. We got the manger record, but not all the animals in there. Could one say, well, this can be interpolation, someone putting their gender in the writings? Well, let's find out. Because it says here, thus it came to pass that the Messiah was born in the midst of animals, was through the redemption of man. Hold on. We just read in Romans about the redemption of man. It said through the redemption of man from ignorance. What ignorance? The ignorance that's in Jubilees, how man fell and became corrupted. The ignorance and sin, he came to redeem them from their sufferings by the manifestation of the sons and daughters of the Most High, and all those whosoever live according to the holy law. He came to show us the way. He came for us to know what's right, that is set the tone straight. We don't got this record. Now we do, but it's not in our writings, in the canonical writings. So we wouldn't even know what Romans 8 was talking about. Well, here we read a whole complete record that they label heretical, stating the prophecy of that coming to life, how Christ did that. Let's read more. And it's Essene Humane Gospel of Christ, right? It says, for Christ came into this world that all things might return to their root. What that say? Who's going to challenge that? Let's read it again. But Christ came into this world that all things might return to their root. What root? The root we established in the beginning of the study. The root that the Most High said was good, which was the diet, the first diet. The root that we read that man corrupted their ways before the fall, after the flood. That root. It says that all things might return to their root. He came to release man from bondage to death. Well, we know that. We teach that. We know that. That is the staple understanding, especially in the Christian doctrine, that the Most High sent his son Christ to die for our sins. So we know that he came to release man from the bondage of our sins and death. We know that. But why we don't know that he came to return man back to his root? Why we don't know he came to bring redemption to all creation, even the animals? If you ask me, that can be a little selfish. He just came for us. He ain't come for no other creation. Who is we to say that? So it says he came to release man from the bondage to death and to set every creature free before the Most High. It says, thus the Messiah will suffer a fleshly death for the sons and daughters of man. Why did he was put to death? Because he came to bring us back to the root. And he died for that. He was put to death for that. They put him to death for that because they didn't want him to do that. They was comfortable with their tradition. It says, for upholding, let me read it again. And the Messiah would suffer a fleshly death for the sons and daughters of man, for upholding the purest motive of love. Fallen man has abused the love of the Most High and forsook his holy law for the commandments and false doctrines of men and devils. Great was the coming mission of the Messiah, and few understand the wisdom of it. That's facts. Few understand the wisdom of his coming. Why? Because someone else told us what his coming was, and we ain't seek it out for ourselves, or we ain't seek what he said his coming was for. Many don't understand the coming mission of the Christ and the wisdom of it. How Christ was the perfect example of humane love on earth. As man, he would excel in all things before the Most High, as the scriptural Christ. It says Jesus knew and understood the wisdom of the law, and it was written in him. And he came to renew the holy law. Why? Because it was broken. We went against it. We read the history, church history said we went against it. We read in Jubilees, we went against it. We fell. So he came to renew what was established in the beginning and to teach us the true meaning amongst men and angels. We got a hand up?
Yeah, I have my hand up.
Absolutely. Go ahead, brother.
So, what you're saying is because it was the thought that it sparked was, obviously when Adam fell, the entire earth went into a different state. Thorns and thistles began to grow, pestilence and all those things. And if I'm not mistaken, the animals weren't eating each other even back in the garden in the days before Adam fell.
Correct.
So what you're saying, it makes sense, and it coincides with Isaiah 11, chapter 6, verse 9.
That's a good one.
Would you like me to read it real quick?
Absolutely.
It says, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 6, it says, the wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. And the suckling child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea.
Fire. Fire. That's major. But someone might be like, oh, well, that's only at the end. That's only when the Messiah come back only. So we can continue to do what we doing now. Oh, I guess. So when are we supposed to have our oil ready? We just gonna wait till the door open and then get the oil? We gotta be oil ready. I appreciate that scripture. So now we know what the Messiah has come. He came to do. He came to restore. He came to set all creation free. Right? Continue. Yea, the Messiah did understand every law of nature, both visible and invisible to man. Even the very secrets of the eons did he discern and know. So it was that there remaineth nothing hidden to his mind, for all the nature decreed of the Most High were manifested in him and through him. Key. Not just manifested in him, but through him, making the silent to be heard and the darkness light. For all the light of the holy law was in him, he being in the Most High rest from the very beginning of time, even unto his birth as the holy child unto the Christ. And the Messiah was perfect, he being the law made flesh. Let me read it again. He being the law made flesh. One more time, because that's key. He being the law made flesh upon earth to bear testimony. So he was the law to bear testimony. So when you see something like sin, the wages of sin is death, right? Christ said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, right? He's life. He's the bread of life. He is life, right? But we know sin is the transgression of the law. So when you sin, you're going against Christ because he is the law. And you bring forth death, which is not Christ because he is life. Y'all see that? He being the law made flesh upon the earth to bear testimony. Wow. To the truth from above. Wow. That many would know of the Father's love and gentleness. And check this out. Through nature. So what do you mean now? When you have seen me, you have seen the Father, because he is the true reflection of the Father's love and gentleness and nature. That's what he mean when he be like, you will be like the Most High, because you will be operating in gentleness, love, and true nature, be an example of his holy way. That's why we the light, because we show the Most High. And when they see us, we are walking testimonies and proof of the existence of the Most High. Not just in our flesh and blood, not just in our creation, but our countenance and characteristics. Going to more records. The Evangelion, the old Syriac Aramaic manuscript of the New Testament, Gospel of Luke. We're going to go into this manuscript that speaks on the Gospel of Luke, particularly verses 21 and 34. This was the manuscript that was written in Aramaic, Syriac Aramaic, right? Look what that saying, what was written in Luke 21:34. And remember I made the statements earlier, how there you will find records of interpolation. We see that Christ said that will happen. We seen that changes was made because of the lust of man and because of the greed of man. Things were changed because we don't have something compared to these changes. We don't think the change existed. But now we have the A and the C. We can see what B is, what's going on with B in between, right? Look what it says here with Luke 21:34 said. It says, this is what Luke 21:34 say in the manuscript. Be on guard so that your hearts do not become heavy with the eating of flesh and with the intoxication of wine and with the anxieties of the world. And the day come upon you suddenly, for as a snare it will come upon all who dwell upon the surface of the earth. That's Luke 21:34. But when you go into the scriptures and read Luke 21:34, guess what? They don't say that. Somebody did the flip on us. Let's read what it say. Luke 21:34 says in our current writings, King James Version, it says, and take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and the cares of this life, so that the day come upon you unaware. Who did the switch up? Y'all see that? Who did the switch up? This don't say nothing about intoxication of wine and staying away from eating of flesh. It don't say none of that. It just say take heed to yourself, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged. Don't say it. So that's a little proof right there, little nugget I wanted to throw in there to show how something is going on. Somebody playing with the word. Right? I hope y'all seen that. Let's go into the next portion of the study. Moses and the Exodus. Right? Moses and the Exodus. Moses and the Exodus. Let's start with Exodus 16, verses 2 and 3. And I wanted to go in this because we read about the Exodus, especially around Passover. We read about the Exodus. We know about the Exodus. We go into proving how we were stiff-necked people in the Exodus. Even when you look up and say, what was the Most High so upset about the children of Israel during the Exodus? You will only get statements like, oh, because they was disobedient. Oh, because they worship idols. Things like that. But the record is right in our face. What was the problem? And you never hear nobody expound on this problem. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never really heard nobody expound on this problem. And it's been right in our face. So as I read this, I want you to think about what's going on. The mindset of Moses, the mindset of the people. Think about what's going on. Try to picture it. And see if you heard this perspective brung forth, right? Let's get it. Exodus 16, 2 and 3. It says, and the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, where we sat by the flesh pots. And when we did eat bread to the full, and you have brought us forth in this wilderness to kill the whole assembly with hunger. We just read this as a murmur, but look at the context. They said, why the Most High bring us into the wilderness just to die? Did he not know we was in Egypt sitting next to the flesh pots? We was eating bread how we want? And you bring us out here in the wilderness to die? Here's my question. Why were they hungry? Because it says, I'll read it again. And the children of Israel said unto themselves, would to the Most High we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt when we sat by the flesh pots. And when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth in the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. My question is, why was they hungry? Why was they hungry? Let's find out. Let's go to Exodus 12, 31 through 38. And what it say? He called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise up and get ye forth from amongst my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go. Serve the Lord as ye have said. Verse 32. Also take your flocks, check this out. Take your flocks and your herds, and as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out the land in haste. But they said, we be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading throws being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and raiment. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required. And they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600 in foot, that they were men besides children. Think about it, 600,000. And then it says a mixed multitude went up also with them. And it says what? Flocks and herds and very much cattle. So my question again, why were they hungry if they had so much flock and cattle, not only of their own, but they spoiled the Egyptians and got more? 12 and 3, and it says, speak unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, and a lamb for an house. And I wanted to put that in there because that shows you how much cattle that the children of Israel had. They was able to, mind you, that 600,000 men. They had so much cattle that they was able to take a lamb just about for every home, for every man. So my question again, why were they hungry? Three more. Go ahead.
They could, well, first of all, they couldn't eat the animals. I think that's what you want me to say, and I think that's the answer anyway. They wasn't allowed to eat the animals. And you also got to think about it too. You know, the animals used to talk. Do you remember that? They used to talk, so it was almost like they were human, because they used to talk to us. You remember, I forget what book, well, it may have been Jubilees, when Joseph was missing. His brothers sold him off. His father went looking for him, and he had a conversation with the wolf, because he thought the wolf ate his son. And he promised him, no, I didn't eat your son. I'm looking for my son. My son is lost. So they were like, huh?
No, I was just saying, son probably got eaten.
Yeah, the wolf's son probably got eaten. But we used to talk to him. So So I can't see us eating them. And like the Most High, and I believe that that's something we was not supposed to do in the first place. We wasn't supposed to eat cattle. So
remember, it says they sat by the flesh pot, so they was grubbing on them. But that's under the Egyptians. It's not under the Most High.
Right.
And that's a key thing to remember. They was under the Egyptians, but not under the Most High, who established the original. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. But I still think that back then that still stood. They still was not eating the animals like that. And that's why they were hungry, and that was something that they knew they could. I don't even think it entered their mind to eat them, because that was something that was in them that they grew up with not doing.
You mean before slavery?
Right.
Got you. Good observation. Good point. Because I always ask that question: why were they hungry? They had all the cattle. They had all the animals. Again, they could have made beef stew whenever they wanted.
But right, but in their eyes, they had no food. They didn't have any food.
Or Moses made it known they can't eat it.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Because we're gonna read more. When they act, let's not jump ahead. We're gonna keep going. I'll wait till you finish.
I'm done.
All right.
Done.
Anybody else have something on that before I continue? All right. Exodus 16, 2 through 4. Go ahead, Brother Matthew.
I would say maybe it was few in number, because they left Egypt in haste. They wasn't able to take everything.
Here's my question: did they take cattle and beasts with them?
That's a good question.
Yes, they took everything.
They definitely did, but another thing, before they left, remember they had to do the Passover, and they was told to sacrifice the lambs or whatever and mark the doorpost with the blood. So after they marked the doorpost with the blood, did they just throw away the kill, or did they eat it?
Well, let's go to back a couple slides to Exodus 12:31. Let's go to verse 32. It says, also take your flocks and your herbs, and he have said, be gone and bless me also. Right? And then let's jump to verse 38. It says, and a mixed multitude went up also with them. Matter of fact, let's go to verse 36. How it says, and the Lord gave unto the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. And we go down to 38, and it says, and a mixed multitude went up with them also, and with them flocks, herbs, and very much cattle. So not only did the children of Israel take their flocks and herbs and cattle, but they spoiled the Egyptians and got more. So much that when I read it, and we read in Exodus 12:3, right? They was able to have a lamb for every man in the house. So they have very much. So it leads the same thing again. Why were they hungry? Right? That was it. I see that.
Kind of. I think my wife got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was thinking maybe there's a possibility that they, because when did they start to complain for hunger? Like, the proximity, what's the proximity between when they left with all of the spoils and when they actually started to complain for hunger? Maybe they thinned out their resources in the wilderness. That's a possibility.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I also wanted to know, I mean, what would be the purpose of having cattle if not for bartering and or sacrificing and eating, which is probably for like the byproduct, like the milk and stuff.
Labor, toiling, milk.
Makes sense. Okay, Tawara.
But thank you for that, because all those speculations are welcome, because that's what I want to bring people in their mindset of, like, here's the possibilities, and they all are great possibilities. Absolutely. Right? We're going to just deal with what we see. Right? So let's go to Exodus 16, 2-4. Right? And it says, and the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had to die by the Lord in the land of Egypt when we sat by the flesh pot. So we know that they murmured, they had a problem, you know what I mean? They was upset, you know what I mean? They didn't like it, but they had plenty of cattle, right? Let's continue. And it says in verse 3, and the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we have died by the hand of the Lord of Egypt in the land of Egypt when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full, for ye have brought us forth unto this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Well, let's get to what happened next. We're going to skip to verse 4. We're going to go to verse 4. Right? Verse 4. Then say the Lord unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. So I want to stop right there for a second. What just happened? Children of Israel murmured, right? Specifically for food, but they gave an example, a reference. We was eating flesh and bread. But listen, we about to die of hunger, Lord. What's going on? Like, it kind of was like a challenge. Like, yo, you really brung us all this out here to kill us. We starving. We want something to eat. Could it be that we don't have enough cattle? Or could it be that we're not supposed to eat them because, they talking to us? Or is it not permissible? What are the reasons why we ain't eating our own cattle? Like I said, jokingly, but true. They could make beef stew anytime they want. But why the Most High here they murmur and told Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they walk in my law or no. Again, like I was stating earlier, we speak on this Exodus and the wilderness and those things, but we talk about how we stiff-necked people and how we was worshiping the idol and stuff like that, but we don't talk about this part of it, right? Because here's another key. Who did Israel talk to? They ain't go directly to the Most High. They went to Moses and Aaron. So they was looking for Moses and Aaron to give them an answer. Couldn't Moses said, go ahead, gather yourself certain lambs, certain flocks, divide it up unto the families and feed them? Moses ain't give him an answer. The Most High gave the response. He said, I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they walk in my law or no. Sister Gail, you got your hand up? You can speak.
Yes, Sister Dawn. But was it because the Most High wanted to prove them? He took them out into the wilderness because they had been eating this flesh and because they had been worshiping idols in Egypt. He was taking them out to the wilderness to reestablish his law, because even though it was before Christ's return, he initially had Moses as the first deliverer. So he wanted to see if they would willingly keep the law. And the law was for them initial law was for them to eat bread and the fruit of the trees.
Key point, because he says right here in verse 4, whether they will walk in my law or no. So it was like a purging period. It was a purging period. Thank you for that insight. Let's go to Numbers 11, 1 through 23. Let's read this. Let's get that whole account right here to get some understanding, some more context, right? But we've seen it with a different lens, right? And it says here, when the people complained, because we know they complained, right? When the people complained, it displeased the Lord. And the Lord heard it, right? So when they complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it. And his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt amongst them and consumed them, that they were in the utmost parts of the camp. Verse 2, and the people cried unto Moses. When Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt amongst them, right? And the mixed multitude that was amongst them fell a-lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? Wow. Verse 5, look what it say. We remember the fish, which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumber, the melon, the leeks, the onion, the garlic. That's how you know it was us. The garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes.
Oh, they were like, yeah.
They ain't want the food the Most High gave them.
Right.
Let's continue. Verse 7. It says, and the manna was a coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it round in mills and beat it into mortar and baked it in pans and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was the taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. And Moses heard the people wept throughout their families. Again, they talking. It said they wept throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent. And the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. Like, y'all wanted something to eat. Y'all wanted flesh. The Most High ain't give it to you, so you're not getting it. And I ain't saying you can have it either, but you're going to take this manna that's falling free from the heavens, which again, that's technically another miracle happening. You know what I'm saying? We seeing all these miracles happening, and you still complaining. But what is they complaining about? They wanted the fish. They wanted the flesh. That's what the scripture said. What it say in verse 11? And it says, and Moses said unto the Lord, whereas thou afflicted thy servant. He like, hold on. You putting this on me? Right? And he said, wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight? And I'm doing the right thing. So it says that thou layest this burden, all of these people upon me. You gonna put so you gonna put these people on me? Verse 12. Have I conceived these people? Yo, that's why I said step in the mindset of this. You see what Moses is talking? Like, yo, they coming to me like I birthed them. Like, Lord, I did my part for you. I'm doing it, and I found favor in your sight. Why are you putting this burden of the people on me? Have I conceived these people? Verse 12, have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them that they should have saying to me? Carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father beareth the sucking child. Unto the land which thou swearest unto thy fathers. Verse 13. When shall I have flesh to give all these people? For they weep unto me, saying, give us flesh that we may eat. They was coming to Moses like, we want flesh. We don't want manna. We want flesh. We don't want manna. We see what you doing, all Heavenly Father, most powerful, most merciful, but we good. We like what the Egyptians was giving us better. I know you delivered us from them, but at least they brought salvation to our bellies. He said, verse 13, when shall I have flesh to give all these people? For they weep unto me, saying, give us flesh that we may eat. 14, he said, I am not able to bear all these people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me. I pray thee out of hand, if I have found favor in thy sight, let me not see my wretchedness. And the Lord said unto Moses, I hear you. He basically like, I hear you. So it says in 16, the Lord said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. Verse 17, and I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the spirit which is upon thee, and I will put it upon them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with thee, that thou bear it not thyself alone. Verse 18, and he say, thou unto the people, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow. Ye shall eat flesh. So what is he doing? He's giving them what they asked for. Sanctify yourself tomorrow. You're going to get some flesh. I'm going to give it to you. What it say? For you have wept in the ears of the Lord, saying, who shall give us flesh to eat? Well, it was well with us in Egypt, flexing. See the flex? Who gonna give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore the Lord will give you flesh, and you shall eat it. Verse 19, and ye shall not eat 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, nor 10 days, nor 20 days, even a whole month, until it come out your nostrils. And it will be loathsome unto you, because that ye have despised the Lord, which is amongst you, and have wept before him, saying, why come we forth out of Egypt? Remember? What's the point of bringing us out of Egypt? Just to die of food? Not to eat flesh? So he like, okay, you want flesh and disrespect my Exodus? I got you. Verse 21, and it says, and Moses said, the people amongst them, who am I? Are 600,000 footmen? And thou hast said, I will give them flesh? So now Moses is like, hold on. Right? Moses is like, wait a minute. Moses is like, wait a minute. And give them flesh. Verse 21 again. And Moses said, the people amongst them, who am I? Are 600,000 footmen? And hast thou said, I will give them flesh, that they may eat a whole month? Shall the flocks and the herds? His answer, because we could say, hey, and I see the hand up, one moment. We could say, hey, Maybe the flocks ran out. Maybe the herbs just dissipated. You know, it's not enough to go around. But what it say in 22? It says, shall the flocks and the herds be slain for them to suffice them? Wow. Whoever has their hand up can speak. Go ahead, Sister Gal. You can speak.
Yeah, it's Sister Dawn again.
I'm sorry.
I was just thinking, because the Most High was testing them to prove them, to see if they would maintain the commandments, that the manna that he had given them might have been what was going to restore their body to a glorified state.
The obedience of that could have restored them.
Right.
Like, yeah. Yeah, good point. That opportunity, it's like he laid out an opportunity to forgive their complaining.
Right. Yes, exactly. And, you know, that they would, if they were willing to, you know, forego the flesh. And I think because there have been so many generations, they forgot. They totally forgot, you know.
That's a good point. Yep. Yep.
That's deep.
You were stepping in generations that didn't even see the Exodus. They're like, right. Yeah, what that got to do with me? I'm hungry right now. That's crazy. So Moses like, shall the flocks and the herd be slain for them to suffice them? You really going to just body all the animals to feed them? They don't even remember what you just did for them. And he said, shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them to suffice them? Why? Because it was so many. He said, you really going to do this, Lord? Watch what the Lord, watch how the Lord flex. Watch what he say. Watch this. Verse 23. And the Lord said unto Moses, is the Lord hand wax short? He said, is my hand short? Thou shalt see now whether my word shall come to pass unto thee or not. No one be teaching this part like this. This is very important to know.
Right, it is.
Numbers 11:31-34. And it says, and there went forth a wind from the Lord, and he brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by the camp as there were a day's journey. Look how long did that? It was so much that fell that the length of it was a whole day's journey. Check it out. He said a day's journey on this side, and as it were a day's journey on the other side around about the camp. And it was were 2 cubits high upon the face of the earth. Let me see something. I want to check that.
Hey, 2 cubits is a lot, bro.
I ain't even got to look it up now. 2 cubits is enough. 2 cubits high. 2 cubits high. Upon the face of the earth, verse 32. And the people stood up all that day and all that night. I bet with all that. And the people stood up all that day and all that night and all the next day, and they gathered quails. They was like, we getting all this. We getting as much as we can get. And he that gathered least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them all abroad for themselves round about the camp.
Wow.
And while the flesh was yet between, verse 33, and while the flesh was yet between their teeth, ere it was chewed, the wrath of the Lord was kindled against the people, and the Lord smote the people with a very great plague.
They did not care.
Right.
That's crazy.
And look, quail's not even as big as chickens.
Right.
So,
Not even the biggest chickens.
They not
yes.
even
So imagine the quantity it had to be now,
Yeah.
since they so small.
like a whole quail is like a breast.
Wow.
Right. And you got smoked for that.
Yeah.
You got smoked for that. Yo, that's crazy. That's crazy. Psalms, let's get this account again, right? Let's get this account again. Let's go to Psalm 78, 12 through 37, right? Let's get this account again. It says, marvelous things did he in the sight of their fathers, in the land of Egypt, in the field of Zoan. He divided the sea and caused them to pass through, and made the water stand as an heap. In the daytime also he led them with a cloud, and all the night with the light of fire. And he gave the rocks in the wilderness, and he clave the rocks in the wilderness, and gave them drink as out of great depths. And he brought streams also out the rock, and caused waters to run down like rivers. Wow. And watch what it say in 17. And they sinned yet more against him by provoking the Most High in the wilderness. Verse 18. And they tempted the Most High in their heart by asking meat for their lust. Verse 19. Yea, they spake against the Most High, and they said, can God furnish a table in the wilderness? Behold, he smote the rock, the waters gushed out, the streams overflowed. Can he give bread also? Can he provide flesh for his people? Therefore the Lord heard this and was wrath. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and the anger also came against Israel, because they believe not in the Most High and trust not in his salvation. Deep. It's funny, the one that brung salvation came back to show us what was. I'm just saying. Verse 23. Though he had commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven, and had rained down manna upon them to eat, and had given them of the corn of heaven, man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full, and he caused the east wind to blow into the heavens by his power, and bring in the south wind, and he rained flesh also upon them as dust. That's crazy. Go to quantity. It was like dust, and feathered fowls like as the sand of the sea. Wow. And he let it fall in the midst of their camp, round about their inhabitants, their habitations. Verse 28 again. And he let it fall in the midst of their camp, round about their habitations. So they did eat and were filled, for he gave them their own desire, that they were not estranged from their lust. But while their meat was yet in their mouths, the wrath of the Most High came upon them, and slew the fattest of them, and smote down the chosen men of Israel. For all this they did sin still, and believe not for his wondrous works. Therefore the days did the consume in vanity, their years in trouble, when he slew them, that they sought him, and they returned and inquired early after the Most High. So check that out. That's the difference. It says when he did that, many returned back to following the Most High.
Right.
Right? But watch what it say. And they remembered the Most High was their rock, and the high God, their redeemer. Right? But watch this. Nevertheless, they did flatter him with their mouth, and they lied with him with their tongues, for their heart was not right with him, neither were they steadfast in his covenant. They was faking the funk. They seen bodies drop, so they had to switch up a little bit. But the Lord wasn't, he knew what was going on, because he looked at it like, yeah, you lying with your lips and your mouth, and your heart really is not with me. Now we understand why the Messiah is going to judge the heart of man. Someone wanted to chime in?
Yeah, I'm sitting up here with a lot of different questions. First, I was thinking, like, our people couldn't have been that stupid, but yes, they were. And I'm also thinking, you know, was this something that the Most High had done as far as like when he did with Ramses, strong delusion, and maybe he was weeding a lot of them out because he knew a lot of them were not. Because do you think it was every last one?
No, it was not.
Right. So do you think he could have been weeding the bad ones out?
Absolutely.
And at the
100%.
same, like they swore that he didn't know. They swore that he didn't know what they were doing. Basically, they were using him. They were trying. They thought they were, but he knew because they flattered him. You know, what I'm saying? Like they were doing dirt, and then they flattered him. It's kind words, and then they did some other crazy stuff.
Don't that sound like our people though?
I was just
right. Right.
I was just about to say, I did a study a while ago called the Exodus Syndrome. We got the Exodus Syndrome.
Yeah, our people definitely be shucking and jiving.
A lot of syndromes.
That's the Exodus Syndrome. Because look what happened. The minute they got delivered from their bondage, they start feeling themselves.
Yeah.
It's the same now here. As soon as we got out of slavery, we like, whips, chains, diamond rings, we good.
Right.
Not to interrupt, but look at the most famous of us, man. Like most of our famous like young entertainers are on all ignorant stuff. Yeah. Like no other people allows their representation on the world scale to be that ignorant.
Right.
And that ignorant and that beloved at the same time.
You know what's so crazy? We don't even have, you remember back in the day, we used to have people claiming us like Jesse Jackson. They want to speak for us. They want to be our representative. Nobody is trying to stand up for that now. Nobody. We just on our own.
New generation. They see they opportunists now. They see that, we really free for real. Right. What's the fight for? I just bought a house on the cul-de-sac. I ain't in chains no more. Right? Go to Exodus 16:35. Thank y'all for your input. It says, and the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years until they came into the land inhabited. So how long did they eat manna? It wasn't just he sprinkled that for a little bit of time. Manna was part of that was the thing. Mind you, he only gave them flesh for a month, if I'm not mistaken. That was just a one-time thing. It said the children of Israel did eat manna for 40 years until they came into the land inhabited. And they did eat manna until they came into the borders of the land of Canaan. Now let's go into the book of Joshua, chapter 81, verse 48. It speaks a little bit on that, right? And it says, and at that time the Lord gave the manna to the children of Israel to eat. And the Lord caused the food to rain from heaven for the children of Israel day by day. And the children of Israel ate manna 40 years. So we got two witnesses. And all the days that were in the wilderness until they came into the land of Canaan and possessed it. So this is the same record. You know what I'm saying? Speaking on what we just read in Exodus 16:35. Right? Let's go into the book of Joshua, chapter 84. Right? Verse 26. And it says, at that time, the children of Israel continued in their journey from the wilderness of Sinai, and they took the journey of 3 days, right? They took the journey of 3 days, and the cloud rested upon the wilderness of Paran. There the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, for they had provoked the Lord and asked him for meat that they might eat. And the Lord hearkened to their voice and gave them meat, which they ate for 1 month. But after this, the anger of the Lord was kindled against them and smote them with a great slaughter, and they were buried there in that place. And the children of Israel called that place Kabrith Hatava, because there they burnt the people, because there they buried the people that lusted flesh. Wow. He made a memorial of that situation. Let's continue. More on the understanding. Let's go to Joshua 5 and 10. What it says, the children of Israel encamped in Galga and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at evening in the plains of Jericho. And they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened cakes and parched corn and self-same day. And the manna seized on the morrow after, watch this, in the verse 12, Joshua 5 and 12. And the manna seized on the morrow, so it stopped, after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. So when did the manna stop? It stopped after they was able to eat the corn of the land. Neither the children of Israel manna anymore, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. So once they got to the point they was able to eat from the land, the manna stopped. That's a merciful God. It's like you thought I was going to leave y'all short. No, I was going to take care of y'all all the way to the point y'all can take care of yourselves. I knew y'all couldn't take care of yourselves through the wilderness. I had y'all. But y'all wanted to doubt me and ask for something that I ain't required. Because I asked this other question. I asked, why was they hungry? But I also asked, well, what did Moses eat? We read it. He couldn't have ate flesh because he would have told him, you can eat what I eat. So apparently Moses wasn't eating it himself. Right? So he provided a way for them the whole way until they was able to eat from the land themselves. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 10, 5 and 6. Watch what it say here. 1 Corinthians 10, chapter 10, verses 5 and 6. It says, but with many of them, the Most High was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Verse 6. Now these things were our examples. Check it out. I'm going to stretch that. Now these things were our examples. It was our example. Verse 6. Now these things were our example to the intent we should not lust after evil things as also they lusted. Somebody say, oh, that's a stretch. Could be. But if you play with the context, we know what they lusted after. Scripture wasn't talking, Scripture wasn't talking they with all wild stuff they was doing. It really put emphasis on idol worship and flesh eating. It's funny how some of us say don't eat animals, sacrifice to idols. But that's the main two things. So if we have to deal with the main two things that we have, that the children of Israel was stiff-necked about, it says we should not lust after the things that they lusted after, but we shouldn't be dealing with idols and we shouldn't be dealing with flesh. Let's go to Acts 17:30. What it say? And in the times of this ignorance, the Most High winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. And let that marinate. I'll read it again. And in times of this ignorance, the Most High winked at. But now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. So the Most High understood the traditions we raised in and the ignorance and the desires of the world. He winked at it. He has mercy on it. He understands. But as we come to the knowledge of the understanding of the righteous way, we got a commandment to do. It's up to us to accept it. But now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. Go to Romans 15:4.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
When we read this word, we see what we want to see. We read what we understand what we want to understand. Put it that way. It's all these scriptures you read, are scriptures that people have been reading, and it clearly tell you we're not supposed to eat meat. That's what I'm getting. It's clearly telling you this. And I'm like, for myself, how did I miss this? How did I miss it? Because I didn't want to see it. Not intentionally, but subliminally, some way. I just didn't see it. And I think it's the same for a lot of people, especially when they talk about us going into the wilderness and how they cried for the meat. They acted like babies. They couldn't take it. It was so bad that they were basically, they were dishonoring the Most High. And it was all for the meat. Why did we not see that? This is, I've seen this. I've seen this many times. Even though in the movie it plays it don't even talk about that, the meat. How they wanted meat. That don't even play in the movie. There's a lot of things that they detoured us from because they didn't want us to know. But from what you're reading right here, how did anybody miss that? And I'm sure it's multiple people like you who study and read. Now, maybe they did see it, but just didn't want to bring it out. But then I'm sure it's a lot of people that didn't get that. They didn't get it.
And also, I think that the fact that they said flesh and the way that the way that it was crafted by, say, the Western Christian church was that the flesh was more about things like fornication, right, and adultery and lying, like things of the flesh. They weren't even, they just diverted you and try to make you see like the sin was the things that you did that was wrong, when actually it was all about the eating and the dietary laws.
Right.
Also, they hidden what the Messiah said, so we had no pure authority telling us to look for these things. And that's where I feel like some of the diabolical practice and formulating the canonical books that we hide what the Messiah taught. We hide the light. And if the light is hidden, it's hidden to those who are lost. That's what I feel, what happened. They hid Christ from us and gave us their own version. Go to Romans 15:4. What it say? It says, "For soever things that were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience, that's the key, we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Whatsoever things that were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Go to James 4:17. Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Some might rebuttal it and say, but did Moses give a dietary law? And that's why we don't see the scriptures like that, because we know what some of the records say, but they don't know why it was implemented in there. So it's not really many people fault for seeing it that way. We was really operating what we was given. But we read in last class, Christ prophesied that there's going to come a time when my ways and teachings and the knowledge of the Holy One will be hidden, and it will be hidden, misscrewed, twisted off the lusts and traditions of man. But the time will come when my true righteousness and my true ways and my true laws will come out. And the truth will be made known. So when you think about, so a lot of us look at it like, oh, all we had was what was taught us, Moses, and they're not wrong for that. But now we're getting an understanding of it. And let's get more understanding of it. Let's go in the Gospel of the Holy 12, Lection 8. Let's read what it says, verse 3. And John bare witness of him, saying, this was he whom I spake, he that cometh after me is preferred before me. For he was before me, and of his fullness have all we received. Check that out. The Messiah was before John, but he said, of his fullness we receive. And what did they receive? Look what it say. A grace for grace. Let me start that over. And John bare witness of him, saying, this was he whom I spake. He that cometh after me is preferred before me. For he was before me, and of his fullness have we all received. A grace for grace. For the law was in part given by Moses, but grace and truth cometh in the fullness of Christ. And that's the key. The fullness and the truth and grace come by the Messiah only. Let's continue in Lection 42, verse 6. And it says, and they said unto him, well, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement? He said unto them, Moses, because the hardness, watch this, Moses, because the hardness of your hearts suffer you to put away your wives, even as he permitted you to eat flesh for many causes. We know what the many causes was, because they was murmuring, right? For many causes, but from the beginning it was not so. Let me read that again. And they said unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement? And he said unto them, because of hardness of your heart. So let's stop right there. He's saying that was not necessarily made from the beginning. So this is the Messiah meticulously showing you something. It was never from the beginning, but did it change? People saying it changed. Yeah, but it was only for a reason. Not because it was intended, but for a reason. The reason was because the hardness of your hearts. So Moses allowed it because we seen the anxiety Moses was going through. Yo, I can't do it this by myself. I can't, this too much. So the Most High said, listen, I'm gonna give you some men that's going to help take this burden. But I can just imagine the burden he was going through and had to adjust certain things just so he could fulfill his mission to get us to the promised land. It says, Moses, because the hardness of your heart suffered. He like, listen, if I don't come up with a way how to deal with this and we keep stopping, It's going to be another 40 years before we get to where we got there. Listen, just write a piece of paper. Let's keep it moving. You see what I'm saying? Moses, because of hardness of your hearts, suffer you to put away your wives, even as he permitted you to eat flesh for many causes. But from the beginning, it was not so. Did we come to understand that? Of course. Wasn't so from the beginning. And we can't even question that. We'd be crazy to question that. Well, Moses, listen, we talking about from the beginning. Christ said, I'm Alpha and Omega. He talking about beginning and end. He ain't talking about nothing in between. Go back in the Gospel Holy 12, Lection 42, verse 12. What it say? And it says, and certain of the elders and the scribes from the temple came unto him, saying, why do the disciples teach men that it's unlawful to eat flesh? Wow. Why do disciples teach that? Do we got records of that in the scriptures? We do not. You're going to see what I mean. The more you study this, you're going to see like, okay, there was an intent to hide this understanding. Let me read verse 12 again. And certain of the elders and the scribes from the temple came unto him, saying, why do the disciples teach men that it is unlawful to eat flesh of beasts, though it be offered in sacrifice as Moses ordained? Verse 13, for it is written, the Most High said to Noah, check it out, who's speaking. Verse 13 again, for it is written, the Most High said to Noah, the fear and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the field, and every bird of the air, and every fish of the sea. Did we not read that in Jubilees? How is this record confirming that? And then this is what the Messiah second that we don't even have in the Gospels. So we have a writing that can seem heretical, proving what was written in Jubilees, proving what was written in what? Genesis, the beginning. For it was written, the Most High said to Noah, we read it, it was written, we pulled the document up and read it ourselves. The fear and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the field, and every bird of the air, and every fish of the sea, and unto your hands they are delivered. And Christ said unto them, ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah speak of you and your forefathers, saying, these people draw nigh unto me, and with their mouths and their heart, with their mouths, and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Where we read that at? We read that in Psalms. How they try to dial that, but it wasn't fooling the Most High. He was like, no, they heart, they want to worship me with their mouth and with their lips, but their heart wasn't with me. Christ saying the same thing. Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah speak of you and your forefathers, saying, these people draw nigh unto me with their mouths and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. For in vain they do worship me, teaching and believing and teaching for divine doctrines, the commandments of men in my name, but to satisfy their own lust, which means they're using me, teaching men, using my name, but they're teaching it in forms that's only going to satisfy their own lust. Wow. They lying on him. They're using his name. So now it makes sense when he say stuff, when the Messiah said, doesn't matter if you call on my name and teach in my name and baptize in my name and do all the great things in my name. That's just lips and mouth service. But he said, get away from me, for I have not known you. Why? Because your work service ain't working it. He said they do it to satisfy their own lusts. They teach, he said, worship me, teaching and believing and teaching for divine doctrines, the commandments of men in my name, but to satisfy their own lusts. Verse 15. And also Jeremiah bear witness. You see how he's cooking them? Like he's hitting them with so much here. Verse 15. Also Jeremiah bear witness when he saith concerning blood offering and sacrifices, I, the Lord, God commanded none of these things in the day that ye came out of Egypt. Is that true? Absolutely. But only this I commanded you to do: righteousness, walk in the ancient path, do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with the Most High. Verse 16, but what it say? But ye did not hearken unto me, who in the beginning gave you all manner of seed, fruit of the trees, and seed having been for food, and healing of man and beast. And they said, you speaking against the law. Wow. Are you kidding me? They told Christ, you talking like that is speaking against the law. Well, I'm gonna tell you this. For anybody that's gonna be talking like that, I ain't gonna front. I talk like that. And many gonna say, well, you speaking against the scriptures. You speaking against the law. But then not Christ said, just like they persecute me, they're gonna persecute you, for the servant is not greater than the master. So we gotta expect that persecution, because we know we come into the understanding of the truth. But one thing you know, coming to this truth, the Most High gonna make another memorial for those who lusted and don't want to follow his way. And it says, and they said, thou speakest against the law. Verse 17, and he said, against Moses, indeed I do not speak, nor against the law, but against them who corrupted his law, which he permitted for the hardness of your hearts. Did we not read? This is why I said we had to step into the mind and the spirit of the understanding of the Exodus. Did we not read that? We read that. He permitted it for the hardness of his heart. He was going through a lot dealing with that. Right? And in verse 18 he said, but behold, a greater than Moses is here. I ain't gonna bend. I'm the Alpha. I ain't bending. I ain't permitting nothing. I'm telling you the way it's supposed to be from the beginning. And if you don't accept that, then there's a memorial waiting for you. Verse 18 again, it says, but behold, greater than Moses is here, and their wrath, and they were wrath, and they took up stones to cast at him, and Christ passed through the midst. It was hidden from their violence. Let's get more understanding on what happened. We getting there. Let's go on another record, the Gospel of Peace, Book 1. It says, then another said, Moses the great in Israel suffered our forefathers to eat flesh of clean beasts and forbade only the flesh of unclean beasts. We asked that question earlier about the clean beasts and unclean beasts, but check it out. I'll read it again. Then another said, Moses the greatest in Israel suffered our forefathers to eat the flesh of clean beasts and forbade only the flesh of unclean beasts. This is a fact. He said, they asked him, why therefore you forbid us the flesh of all beasts? Which law comes from the Most High, that of Moses or yours? Wow, they asking the Alpha at the beginning of all, who comes first? He said, which law comes from the Most High, that of Moses or your law? And Christ answered and gave. He said, Christ answered, the Most High gave by Moses 10 commandments to your forefathers, and these commandments were hard, said your forefathers, and they could not keep them. When Moses saw this, he had compassion on his people, and would not that they perish. And then he gave them what? It says he gave them 10 times 10 handwritten ordinances. For he whose feet is strong as the mountain of Zion needs no crutches. But those whose limbs are do shake get further having crutches than without them. And Moses said unto the Lord. So he basically saying, I had to give them crutches so we can keep it pushing. But there were a remnant that didn't even need the crutches because their feet were strong as Zion. They were the children of light. I didn't have to make no addendums or adjustments or anything. They knew the ways of the Most High. It was just a few, not a few, thousands of stiff necks that needed a crutch. So I had to switch things up to keep it moving. And it says, and Moses said unto the Lord, my heart is filled with sorrow, for my people will be lost. For they are without knowledge and are not able to understand thy commandments. They are as little children who can't not yet understand their father's words. Suffer, Lord, It says, suffer, Lord, that I give them other laws, that they may not perish. And if they may not be with thee, Lord, let them not be against thee, that they may sustain themselves. And when the time has come, who's he talking about? And when the time has come and they are ripe for thy words, reveal to them thy laws. Just talking about Christ. When Christ comes, he's going to show you the real way. So that's what Moses says, when the time has come, they are ripe for thy word, reveal to them thy laws. Well, I thought Moses already revealed it to them. Just like the people that's speaking to Christ a little bit further up saying, did not Moses give us this? Then the Lord, you know. But Moses sitting there saying, no, when the time has come, the Most High is going to give them, the Christ is going to give them the true laws. For that did Moses break the 2 tablets of stone wherein were written the 10 commandments, and he gave them 10 times 10 in their stead. Deep. Let's continue. Right? Let's go into Nazarene Acts. This is another book, another writing. Nazarene Acts chapter 35, and this is labeled the Exodus. And it says, after this, Moses, by the command of the Most High, who providence is over all, led out the people of the Hebrews into the wilderness. And leaving the shortest road that leads from Egypt to Judea, he led the people through a long winding of the wilderness, that they may what? That what? It said that by the discipline of 40 years, the novelty of a change of manner of life might root the evils that they had clung to them by the long continuance familiarity with the custom of the Egyptians. Wow. So they took the long route, and it took that long because it was trying to purge out the familiarity of customs from the Egyptians. Now you understand why we're going to have to go through a wilderness again. There's some purging that's going to have to happen again. But I hope we be the children of light. We ain't going to need those crutches. But it says they took the long route, right? Because we were too ingrained with the custom of the Egyptians. And he was trying to knock it out of us. And it says, meantime, they came to Mount Sinai. From there, the Torah was given to them with voices and sights from heaven, written the 10 precepts, of which the first and greatest was that they should worship the Most High himself alone and not make to themselves any appearance or form to worship. But then Moses had gone up to the mount and was standing there 40 days. The people, although they had seen Egypt struck with 10 plagues and the sea parted and passed over them on foot, manna also given to them from the heavens for bread and drink supplied to them out of the rock that followed them, which kind of food was turned into whatever taste anyone desired. Although being placed under the terrid region of heaven, they were shaded by a cloud in the daytime, and they might not be scorched by the heat. All that is happening for them, right? And it says, and by night were enlightened by a pillar of fire, lest the horrors of the darkness shall be added to the vastness of the wilderness. These very people, I say, when Moses stayed in the mount, made and worship a golden calf. It said golden calves head after the fashion of Apis, whom they had seen worship in Egypt. After so many and so great marvels that they had seen, were unable to cleanse and wash out from themselves the defilement of old habit. On this account, leaving the short road that leads to Egypt, to Judea, Moses conducted them by the immersed circuit of the desert. Watch this. So that if he might be able, as we mentioned before, to shake off the evils of the old habit by a change of a new education. Wow. Let's wrap this up with this. Get ready to wrap this up with this understanding and more on that. It's another writing called the Sing Book of Moses, the Ten Commandments. What it say? Verses 1. And Mount Sinai was altogether in smoke because the Lord descended upon the fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. And the Lord came down to Mount Sinai on the top of the mount, and the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went up. And the Lord called unto Moses out of the mountain, saying, Come unto me, for I will have give thee the law for thy people, which shall be a covenant for the children of light. And Moses went up unto the Most High, and the Most High spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord, thy God, which have brought thee out of the depths and bondage of darkness. Thou shalt have no other laws before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any images of the law in heaven above or in the earth beneath. I am the invisible law, and without beginning and without end. Thou shalt not make unto thee false laws, for I am the law, the whole law of all laws. And if thou forsake me, thou shalt be visited by disasters for generations upon generations. And if thou keepest my commandments, thou shalt enter the infinite garden where it stands me, the tree of life. Check that out. If we keep his commandments that Christ gave, thou shalt enter the infinite garden where stands the tree of life in the midst of the eternal sea. Thou shalt not violate the law is thy God, who shall not hold thee guiltless. And it says 28, and the 7th day is the Sabbath, thou shalt remember and keep it holy. The Sabbath is the day of light of the law. Thy God, and thou shalt not do any work, but search the light, the kingdom of thy God, and all the things that shall be given unto thee. For know ye that during 6 days thou shalt work with the angels, but the 7th day thou shalt dwell in the light of the Lord, who is the holy law. Thou shalt not take the life from any living thing. It says, thou shalt not take the life of any living thing. Because the life comes only from the Most High, who giveth and taketh it away. Thou shalt not debase love. It is sacred gift of the Heavenly Father. Thou shalt not trade thy soul, the priceless gift of the loving God, for the riches of the world, which are the seed sown on stony ground, having no root in themselves, so enduring but for a little while. We had a hand up? Someone had a question?
No, that was a mistake.
All right. Verse 33. Thou shalt not be a false witness of the law to use it against thy brother only, but knoweth the beginning and ending of things, for his eye is single, and he is the holy law. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's possessions. The law giveth thee much greater gifts, even the earth and the heavens, if thou keep the commandment of the Lord God. And Moses heard the voice of the Lord, and sealed with him the covenant that was between the Lord and the children of light. And Moses turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tables of the law were in his hand. And the tables were the work of the Most High. Written was the writings of the Most High, graven upon the tablets. And they ate and drank and danced before the golden calf, which they made. And they abandoned themselves to the corruption and the evil of the Lord. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, he saw the calf, and the dancing, and the wickedness of the people. The Moses' anger was waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hand and brake them beneath the mount. So those were gone. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses said unto the people, Ye have sinned a great sin. You have denied thy Creator. I will go up to the Lord and plead atonement for thy sins. Crazy. And Moses returned to the Lord and said, Lord, thou hast seen the desecration of thy holy law, for thy children has lost and worshiped darkness and made for themselves a golden calf. Lord, forgive them, for they are blind to the light. And the Lord said unto Moses, behold, at the beginning of time was a covenant made between God and man. And the holy flame of the Creator did enter unto him. And he was made the Son of God. And it was given him to guard his inheritance of the firstborn, and to make fruitful the land of his father, and keep it holy. And he was cast out of the Creator, who doeth spit upon his birthright, and no more grievous sin do exist in the eyes of the Most High. What I want to point out in this part was that there was made a covenant in the beginning. There was a covenant made in the beginning, and that covenant is what constitutes, for me, what's the standard of righteousness we shall honor. Because if it doesn't line up with the covenant that was made in the beginning, then it's not the righteousness of the Most High. Let's just say it like that. And one of the covenants we read in the beginning was the first dietary law. And then we read Christ was bringing us back to that covenant. But let's go even earlier than that. That covenant was given unto Adam first. But it says the word came unto Adam and told him, he told him about his death. He told him what he's going to do and how he's going to bring his descendants back into righteousness by implementing the ways of the Lord. That is the original covenant. And to me, if it doesn't line up with the ways that's going to bring us back to the Most High, then I don't even put no thought to it no more. Because I know the Messiah came and brought a perfect, more holy way. And through my understanding and study, that holy way is some of the information that's been dropping all through this course. Verse 44, and it says, and the Lord spake, saying, only the children of light keepeth the commandment of the law. Hear me, for I say, thus the tablets which thou did break, thou shalt never more be written in the words of men. As thou didst return them to the earth and fire, so shalt thou live invisible in the hearts of those who are able to follow their law. And the people of little faith did sin against the Creator, even while they stood on holy ground before the Most High. Wow. But check what he said. I will give another law, and there shall be a stern law. Yea, he should bind them, but they know not yet the kingdom of light. And that's the law Moses gave him. And Moses hid the invisible law within his breast and kept it for a sign to the children of light. You see how it's stressed that the children of light had the righteous way. Now we understand when Christ says stuff like, be ye children of light. That wasn't just a blanket statement. He's saying, be like the ones that kept the righteous ways of the Father. It wasn't just a blanket statement like, we all children of light because we are the Most High. No, it's saying the children of light is those who honored the righteous ways of the Most High. And it says, read it again, 45. And Moses hid the invisible law within his breast and kept it for a sign to the children of light. And the Most High gave unto Moses the written law for the people. And he went down unto them and spake unto them with a heavy heart. Because he knew they wasn't ready for the righteous ways of the Father. This is why Moses made this statement. There's going to come someone like me born unto his brethren, and you're going to have to listen to him because he's going to bring the righteous way. Another book I want to go into. It's called the Book of Yeshua. It's chapter 30. And it says here in verse 20, have you not read what was spoken unto your fathers by the Most High even from the beginning, saying, behold, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I tell you truly, that God is not the God of the dead, but of the living only. He doesn't glorify himself in dead things, only the living. Verse 22. And it says, and the Sadducees spoke against them, saying, is not the law which Moses gave the law of God also? Now, this is a whole nother document that said the same thing that was written in the same gospel of peace, that was also written in the gospel of the Holy 12. I think it was written in another book. All of it have this same statement about uplifting Moses over what the Most High established from the beginning. Like verse 22, it says again, and the Sadducees spoke against him, saying, is not the law which Moses gave the law of God also? And it said, Yeshua answered them. It's the book of Yeshua. So it says, and Yeshua answered them, saying, if the law would come from the Most High, why then will you say it is the law of Moses? Verse 24, and he said, I tell you truly that Moses at first did give you your fathers the law which come from the Most High. That's why I went into that long record showing he initially got the writings, but he had to break them because we couldn't follow them. So the true laws was hidden by Moses only to those of the children of light, and the Messiah will come and teach that way of getting back to the children. So verse 24 says, I tell you truly that Moses at the first did give unto your fathers the law which come from God. Right? And I express this because many will go to the law to justify the eating of flesh. But just no need to go to that, because now we understand that was a temporary thing. 25, yet did your fathers commit sin in the wilderness. We've read the records. And against the golden calf did he breaketh the pieces the law, which was come from above. For this cause did Moses give unto you the lesser law. Let me read that again. For this cause did Moses give you the lesser law. So now, you see how we stress that we must keep the laws, statutes, and commandments, but we really don't understand that we're stressing something that was lesser. We should take that same sentiment and zeal and stress what's greater. And watch the salvation of our nation change on a greater level. That's what's going to make us really set apart from the world. That's just me saying it. I read it again, 26. For this cause did Moses give unto you the lesser law, for ye are stiff-necked people. Wow. Quick to sin and quick to forget the Lord your God. So he had to slap us with that understanding, because we needed something to keep us corrected until the time of the Messiah. Verse 35. See then for yourselves how that the law which Moses gave unto your fathers in the wilderness command but a lesser portion, for so have ye become for the tradition's sake. Let me read that again. It says, see then for yourselves how that the law which Moses gave unto your fathers in the wilderness, it's being very specific, fathers in the wilderness commands but the lesser portion, for so have you become, so have we become, so have many became, so have you become for the tradition's sake. We became lesser. Jump to verse 42, and it says, and the Pharisees, when they heard these things, spoke amongst themselves, saying, this man teaches against the law of Moses. Let us therefore seize him, and we might bring against him some accusations. Wow. Wow. Any questions? Any hands up? I think I heard a few. Floor is open. You can chime right in, my brother.
So what I'm taking from what you're saying is when it says until the Messiah returns, because we know that when he came initially, he came to set the record straight. But the scripture says that when he gets here on the second coming is when he's going to rule with a rod of iron, right?
Correct.
So when he comes for the second coming, that's when it's gonna be no two ways about it. Like whatever you decided is what you decided, and now you gonna have to make that, live with that or perish with that or whatever the case.
Right, because he set the tone while he was here, so there's no excuse.
And that's why
it's kind of like the record where it says, I think it's Lazarus or the rich man and the poor man in the Hades, where it says, and he asks, well, let my people, can we go back and warn the people? It was like, no, they got the writings in the books and warn them. It's the same thing. Like, we got the teachings of the Messiah. There's no excuse when he comes back. But that was interesting that you brought that part up. That the coming back, as in he's gonna rule, because it says he's gonna rule with the rod when he comes back, and that's a fact.
So like that's why I said he's not playing when he come back the next time. Like he came in humility to show everybody that love, that compassion, that grace. And when he coming back different. He's standing up on business.
The fact. That's a fact. Floor's open. Anybody else? And I tell you, man, we definitely want to be on that right side when he's ruling. We definitely want to be on the right team.
Man, they saying, a lot of, growing up in the church and all of that, we're not that much in the church, but just a little bit in the church. They still paint the Messiah to be some type of, guy that can be pushed over.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you really learn about that Messiah, when he it say, where have you came from? I'm quoting, I'm kind of paraphrasing when he go to that with Bozrah, when he come from from Bozrah, and he looked like he just finished treading wine in the wine press, and his eyes are black red. Trying to tell you, man.
Dreadful day. Dreadful day. And they did a number. They made sure. It's like those spirits say, you come to take us before our time. It's like they know a time is coming. So what better way to make sure we're not prepared when that time come also? All right. Nobody got no other input. I would like to pray out. But before I say that, this was just the second part. The first part. This was just the first part. The second part we're going to go into next week, which is a little shorter. But we're going to go into establishing Christ. More of what Christ said and how his disciples live, and the histories on proving that that's the way they live. Like direct quotes from the apostles themselves showing how they live, how they diet was, the historians showing how they live and how they diet was, and things like that. Just to add on, the remarkable understanding of that. But this one was more so kind of like trying to open our eyes to it and the questions, man, and the input, bananas, the way how everybody chimed in to give their perspectives and things like that, and able to see it, you know what I'm saying? But like it said, it gives us an opportunity. I don't know how many felt, but I say how it made me felt. It gave me the opportunity to say, listen, if this is your ways, continue to show me. And I had to start operating in repentance. Like, okay, I was against with your ways, but that was just me.
Beautiful class.
Yeah, this was excellent. Can't wait for part 2.
All praises. Beautiful lesson, man. All praises.
All praises to the Most High.
Very good class.
He was studying a lot.
You already know.
And he was blessed with a lot of fruits.
Appreciate that.